Welcome to the Women's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, your moderator. The Women's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned?
We all have our dreams and goals. Just how far are we willing to go to accomplish them? My guests are two women from different parts of the globe who share the same dream and literally went to the ends of the earth to achieve them. I would like to welcome Liv Arensen and Bancroft, two modern-day heroes.
Would you please tell our audience what you two have accomplished that put you on the map?
Well, we crossed the Antarctic continent. You have to help me with miles, Anne, but it's in kilometers. It's 2,870 kilometers in 94 days.
Wow.
A little over 1,700 miles.
What was your purpose in doing this?
I think our purpose was really twofold. The first purpose is we gravitate towards this kind of activity in these kinds of places. We like wide open space. We like solitude, oddly enough, for 100 days. That is exciting. And we like to challenge ourselves physically and mentally. The second part of the why to do this was that we're both former school teachers, and we really wanted to continue to encourage students, not just the ones in the formal classrooms that we had in front of us, but a broader audience of students to continue to explore the things that they're interested in and sort of share some of the trials and tribulations of our journey and then relate to what's going on in their life, but to try and ignite kids to their dreams and all that they want to do and be.
Let's go to the Greenland expedition, where you had so many people, I was going to say people, but it's more men who really negated what you were trying to do?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, well, the Greenland expedition we were 4 women at the first, and then it was 2 women. It was on the Everest expedition, were climbing with men, but that was a really good team because we had worked with this. And being a woman, only woman in a team, and Anne has also experienced that, it's easier for the men to sort of talk about their difficulties to us rather than their male companions.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's the subject with being on an expedition with only men. I'm not sure if you can help me to explain that further. I
think that's good. I mean, yeah. I think they rely on you when there's just one other woman. It's sort of the emotional babysitter is the word I use, but it's a little harsh. But and it's a burden to do that when it's it should be a team sharing of everybody's fears and challenges on a journey. And
would you say that's because they don't know how to relate to a woman in such a circumstance, even though you're basically all on the same level?
No, I would rather say that they're not used to talk about their emotions and feelings. And they can do that to a woman, but not to a man. That's they sort of lose their face. It's easy to lose their face if they say that I'm afraid, I'm really nervous, I'm scared.
It breaks the macho code, yeah, I think, a bit for them. But we, confessing to us doesn't break the code. It's still the secret.
Oh, when you were talking to various people, they kept saying, "Don't go. You're crazy. You're out of your mind." They came up with all the negative things. How did you handle that?
I think we tend to look to people who do believe in us. Our families and our friends, and who know us very well, and it sort of silences or at least pushes back the individuals who don't have faith for one reason or another. It's I think our greatest challenge in our earlier years of exploration or adventuring was more the attitudes of others. They looked at our gender and they said, no, you shouldn't or you can't. Or they look at our size and say, how can you pull a 250, 260-pound sled? You don't weigh that much. So it was changing those attitudes, and I think over the course of many expeditions we've done that, and so we don't hear it as much, at least on that level. But you always get somebody who's, for one reason or another, just doesn't believe, and you have to just push them away and keep moving forward and find the people that do support you listen to your inner voice, sort of.
Well, what challenges did you have training for this expedition?
Well, actually, we love training, and it's a sort of, that's our lifestyle. So we don't think training as that no, I have to go out and do this and so many hours. So we ski, run, kayak, go bicycling, but it's the last 3 months before this expedition. We did something very weird. We were pulling 3 car tires to sort of elude the sled behind us with a heavy backpack. And when we met people on those training trips, then they really thought we were more than crazy.
But you overcame the obstacles. You persevered with your dream instead of having somebody say you can't do it.
Yeah,
which is really very encouraging.
Yeah, we had this inner belief, and sometimes you just have to reach a dream. You sometimes have to fight, you know, some difficulties. And also, I think that's doing something that's really boring, like training or study, whatever what your goal is, like pulling car tires. That's boring. So I use that often in schools as a sort of a picture for what's really boring. Some kids think, you know, the lessons, some of them are quite boring, but there is a future far ahead that's much more fun, like the South Pole, like, you know, the North Pole, like. So,
what challenges did you have in raising funds for your project?
Well, I think this last expedition across Antarctica together, the challenges were a little easier to overcome because we had 10 people back in Minneapolis who were our base, and they have the expertise of going in and talking to marketing departments, and we could go in and share our vision for what we wanted to do with children and what we wanted to do in terms of crossing the continent and what motivated us. But then they could sort of implement the language of, you know, marketers and sponsors and whatnot, and so it really eased the burden of that, which in earlier years for other expeditions of ours has always been very, very difficult, because typically we're sort of trying to do it all ourselves, and to have the expertise behind us of a passionate, wonderful group was really a unique experience for us. It was the first time that's ever happened for us.
How much does an expedition like this run?
It's about $1.5 million with the logistics of the plane flight to and from the continent, the educational curriculum that we wrote and had distributed, you know, just everything from gear to backup airplane that, you know, is in the waiting in case we get into trouble. I mean, you have to do those kinds of things as well. So Antarctica is exceedingly expensive. Because it's just so very, very remote and far away from anything else, and so it tends to drive the cost up.
It also gives you a great opportunity to meditate. Diet struck me as very interesting because now they're coming out with all these health benefits of chocolate. So chocolate was one of your mainstays. What else was in your diet?
We didn't have dark chocolate though. That's the healthiest chocolate. So, but we had a lot of chocolate, Norwegian chocolate. And for breakfast we had the cereals that we put oil into.
Any particular kind of oil?
You have to help me. It's
actually the oil that McDonald's used to use for their French fries.
Oh, really?
So it's high fat. It's, you know, our diet is all the stuff that's not good for you, particularly here. We're eating about, you know, 5,000 calories a day. It's very high in fat. I think 45% of our calorie intake is animal fat. So it's, you know, it's not the recommended kind of.
Not a healthy diet, right?
It is out there. You know, it's you're burning like crazy, and so it works very, very well. So we're very deliberate about looking for high saturated meals. But I wouldn't recommend it in this environment.
No, I don't think so.
Possible to eat that breakfast we had on the ice at home because it's too much fat. But on the ice in Antarctica, we really need, the body has a hunger for fat. So that's why we needed that much.
You were also talking about how you ate so many potato chips every day.
Yeah. when we had after a day's trek or a day's sailing, we went into the pitched a tent and went into the tent and had a cup of soup and potato chips. That was a treat.
A lot of salt.
A lot of salt and fat. A great pick-me-up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something. I'm sure before you went on your journey that you had tests, you know, like your heart, your cholesterol, and everything else. Before and after, did you see a difference in your testing afterwards with all the stuff that you were eating?
Mostly what, you know, the research that we've been a part of over time has shown that, you know, we have, you know, very low cholesterol, good heart rate, all those things from training beforehand. When we eat that high-fat diet, we come back. Heart rate, cholesterol, still very low and steady. And it's, you know, it's a combination of the environment we're living in is very cold, and then the work we're doing is very hard. So you, that fat isn't staying with you. You know, you are burning it very, very efficiently in that kind of environment. So it's really important to sort of balance it with, you know, what we're doing and where we are. And so we always come back in great physical shape, typically.
One of the things that has really intrigued me is the personal hygiene. I'm thinking, I take a shower every day. How could you survive without taking a shower every day? Or a bath or whatever? What did you do?
Well, we brought this tiny tissues so for that with baby oil on. So we used one tissue every day. So we felt really clean. And we had a shower when we reached the South Pole. So and it's, you don't feel that dirty like you do here in the city. We work hard and use that little tissue every day, and no, I didn't have any problem.
No, it's usually, you know, your hair is the thing that you notice, not the rest of your body so much. It's because it's dirty instantly, but you never take your hat off, inside or outside the tent.
Really?
Well, it's kind of nippy, so.
Yeah, I'd say so. What was it, 35 or 45 below Fahrenheit?
Yeah. But you can kind of make any hairdo you wish, you know, when you take your hat off.
The type of gear you were using, what was it?
Yeah, we put everything that we needed in our sleds, like the tent, the sleeping bags, the food, the fuel. Food and the fuel took most of the space in the sled. And we brought 2 pairs of skis, one that we used for pulling and one for sailing. That was a little bit wider telemark skis. It's more stable to sail with. And we brought each 4 different sails, and first aid kit and a repair kit. So we were self-sufficient.
What would you change on your next expedition?
Well, we are heading north in 2005. It's sort of similar, and we haven't really. I was really satisfied with this expedition, and I don't know. There is some details. It's more water in the north, so we'll have to bring a dry suit because we need to swim when we are heading north, because it's open leads. It's Arctic Ocean is a ocean.
Wow.
So that's different from Antarctica. But I think we did very well on this trip.
I think, you know, there's always places where you might fine tune. For instance, you know, we'll look at food again, and I would imagine we'll see what is new. I mean, things change from expedition to expedition in terms of both clothing, food, and technology, and we try and stay with the changes and see what's applicable for us. So there might be areas where we can perhaps be more efficient and make our sled, you know, lighter. I mean, we're always looking for ways to do that, and but the gear, by and large, will be very, very similar.
You started doing ski sailing with the different types of sails. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's we have both been ski sailing before, but that's also technology that has been, you know, developing every year actually. So we were testing different sails. The NASA-wing, the 3-sided sail, that's harder to control. I maybe was thinking about the accident I had in Norway when I hit a rock and was towed after the sail for a kilometer or so. And then my husband and my youngest daughter came over and looked at the track and said, And my husband that night said, "Well, no, I'm really a little bit worried about your, Antarctic expedition." And I was thinking, "Oh, I'm really worried too. I would be really hurt myself if that was in Antarctica." So we tested different sails, and we actually brought a huge three-sided sail, a NASA wing that we call it, 32 square meters. And Anne can tell a story about that.
I was trailing Liv with this enormous sail, and they're very powerful. When the wind fills them, they're...
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's sort of the story. I was lifted up, which is not what you hope for. We want the sail out more, a little bit up, but out in front of you, not like a parachute. And this gust came, and up it went over my head, and it lifted me up. And fortunately, we have these heavy sleds attached to us. So I didn't leave Earth proper, and Liv started teasing me by calling me Mary Poppins, actually.
Communicated back in Minneapolis because you had satellite communication. What was that like?
Well, that was, it was amazing. I think we spent 97 days on the ice, and I would say that almost 97 days we marveled at this piece of technology that would link us with the outer world. We had never had this on any of our other expeditions. It was always quite cumbersome to get any kind of voice out. And this phone is, it's like a size of a shoe, and it beams a beam up into space and then down, and we were talking with our group, our base camp in Minneapolis, sometimes as clear as you would on the telephone. And it was just amazing that we could sit in our tent side by side like this with the phone in the middle and have sort of a little conference call and give a report about how our day went. And that report, the next step of sort of the phenomenal technology suddenly at our disposal was our voices were on the website, and kids around the world were able to get a feel for what our day was like, and through exchanging, going back and forth with the report, they started to get a feel for our personalities and get to know us. I mean, it was really quite an intimate experience, and yet here we were, just the two of us down at the bottom of the world.
Now, how do you feel that it changed their lives?
Harder to talk about their lives.
Yeah, I think we got about 25,000 emails with comments what our expedition did to people, kids and people. To us, we felt we reached 3 million kids in 116 different countries, or educational program. It was about Antarctica, and one was called Dare to Dream. So that was far more than we had sort of dreamed about.
Beautiful.
So that was a dream come true for us as former teachers. And I think on an expedition like this, unlike in life, you learn something more about yourself every day. And maybe in these extreme areas, you learn much faster, I think.
What would you say was the most outstanding thing that you learned about yourselves?
Well, I'm not sure if on this specific trip, but it's definitely to be more patient, to take the days as it comes, the weather as it comes, because we couldn't change the weather. It was not the weather we had expected, so we just have to be patient. Take 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. So it's to not to panic, and just to believe that we will make it. So I think that's the. And that's we are making products out of our stories now, and we call it it's having the explorer's mindset, to think and plan and sort of never give up.
What was the best day, or what was the worst day that you had?
Oh, there were so many good days, I think.
Yeah, that's the good thing about being a human being, that we remember the best days. I do.
Yeah. And even when you're having, I think, it's hard to single out one day in such a long expedition, I think. But I think what strikes me is, even on the days that were tough, I think what I marveled at with the two of us is, I think we always laughed every day. We found humor. sometimes in each other, sometimes in the other one. And I don't think that there was not a day that we did not appreciate the beauty of where we were and what a privilege it was to have this opportunity not only to fulfill our dream, but to see this place. Antarctica is extraordinary, and so few people have really been in the interior as we were experiencing it, and we knew that was a gift. And so, you know, to be seasoned enough, I think, to appreciate that even when you're having a tough time sometimes, was really a joy. And that was somewhat of a teamwork experience sometimes, because maybe I wasn't seeing it, but Liv would say, look at that. And then you come out of, you know, your sort of myopic vision, and then you see this landscape that's, you know, constantly changing.
And you were saying that you could see for many miles, even flat.
And most of the trip was really flat. The room is enormous, and you can see nothing but snow and ice, and also the sky. And the clothes are changing constantly, so it's like traveling through I call it a gallery with modern arts, because it's changing, and the sun and the clouds are also changing the light. So people think it's boring, but it's not. Because I think it's very few hours are actually the same. Maybe when it's totally a sunny day, then the hours are very much the same. But we had a lot of clouds, a lot of really bad weather, and that also created a lot of beautiful experience with the nature and the light.
After crossing the Antarctic for 94 days, you basically ran out of wind.
I would say we ran out of time.
Okay.
Because we had to be picked up of a ship in McMurdo, and the ship had reported back to our team in Minneapolis that it was a lot of ice and they had problem with the ice, so they had to follow the last icebreaker out from McMurdo, the American scientific station. So we got a message that what should we do? And they wondered, could we sail to McMurdo in 3 days? And we said, well, there's no wind, we don't know. So after, I think, 3-4 days on the ice, and we figured out that we wouldn't get the wind, and there was a plane waiting for us, you know, as an emergency backup. And they wanted to get off the continent, and of course the ship and the crew, we couldn't put all these people in jeopardy.
Right.
So that made sense that we said, okay, let's fly the last stretch of the Ross Shelf, and that was because we had visualized this McMurdo for 2-3 years.
Long time.
So that was the sort of the saddest part. But when journalists called, we talked to journalists. I wondered, why do you want to continue when you have crossed the Antarctic landmass? You know, so they didn't see the point why we wanted to go and why we were disappointed. But you know, when they have this goal, have had this goal for 3 years, it was a huge disappointment.
Oh, I can imagine. But you were talking about the children who lifted your spirits and helped you.
Yeah.
Well, as we were sitting there waiting, you know, once we had made the decision and feeling pretty down about it, our office asked if we would use that satellite phone to contact a group of 5th graders in southern Minnesota. And they had been following every day and writing news articles, actually, for the local paper. And we contacted them, and we talked with them for about 40 minutes.
Wow.
Unprecedented for us to be on the satellite phone that long. And they, one by one, came up to the speakerphone and relayed their experiences about what it was like for them to follow the journey, and you know, sort of articulated the question that you asked Liv earlier about, you know, how did that change their life. And it was like tonic for us. It had totally inflated us, and we realized that our ultimate purpose was really achieved, that we came here to inspire and ignite young children to their own possibilities, and they expressed that beautifully as we were on that phone. And so we felt like we could come home at that point and hold our heads up.
And your mission was really accomplished.
Yeah.
In one sense.
Yeah.
It was really accomplished.
Yeah.
It was great. What advice would you give to people who want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, it's. I think it's the key to if people want to fulfill a dream is to. It's important to make a plan, make the people that can support you, help you, getting the right contact, and most of all having the patience and the perseverance. And don't think it takes a year or 2 years. Maybe make a plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. I dreamed about the South Pole for almost 30 years before I got there. So I hope people reach their dreams before 30 years. But but still, it's I think to having the stamina to be patient. I think that's important.
You briefly touched on your next adventure. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, Anne has been to the North Pole before, and we, traveling with Anne, I heard so much beautiful about the nature up there. So we're planning to do a traverse from Russia to the North Pole and then down to Canada in the spring 2005, and also build an educational program for kids. So that's our plan.
What would you like to leave the audience with?
I hope that everything is possible. You can reach your dreams.
Beautiful.
Find their own expedition.
Find your own expedition.
Wherever it may take you. You know, it doesn't have to be at the bottom of the world. There's so much to do. And
very true. Very true. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me. It's been wonderful hearing about this adventure. I got to tell you, I was reading your book, No Horizon is So Far. It was like I was right there, being with you, except I was warm. Have you reached your goals? If not, there's still time.